Hello, everyone. Welcome to our studio home office. Whether you're catching this on the podcast or on Facebook Live or on YouTube, we welcome you very much. We are Sonica right here next to me, and I am Christian. We're glad to be with you.
One of the things we wanted to talk about today is the tendency when we're going through hard or challenging or stressful times is our focus tends to go towards the stuff we can't control, the stuff we don't like, the stuff that isn't working. Our attention tends to drift towards all the stuff that drives us nuts.
Yeah, surely you know this phenomenon from your relationship. You can just think about in the beginning of relationship, it's typically all rainbows and roses and fun and sex and good times. And over time, when you begin to see things that trouble you, either in your partner's behavior or in your own dynamics and patterns, those problems tend to get more and more and more visible. It's as if over time they begin to take up a larger and larger portion of your mental bandwidth.
And there's a reason for that, actually, which is that the mind, when we get on a certain track, the mind automatically looks for evidence to reinforce what we're already thinking. So whether that's about, this coronavirus, right? It's like, oh my God, it's getting worse and worse, and it's magnifying, and it's, we're going to see evidence for that if we look for that. And the same is true with our partners. If I have this idea that you're somebody who's emotionally unavailable, or you're somebody who doesn't keep agreements, my mind, when I have that kind of a story about you, my mind is going to look for evidence to reinforce it.
Yeah, and it works the same way with the, you could say the unproductive or painful stories or makeups I have about myself. And I'm sure you can relate to that, whether it's, I'm not successful enough, or I'm too old, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of being loved. When those are activated, our minds will go look for evidence to support them. And in this case, when it's a negative belief or pattern we have, we don't really want more evidence to support that. Or like Sonica was suggesting, if I have a story or a pattern or a belief that says you don't respect me or you don't care about what I think, I don't really want more evidence to support that. But my mind, at least if left unattended, will still go search for more evidence to support that.
So one of the things we like to do actually is to use this tendency of our mind to our advantage,
Yeah.
right? So instead of it by default looking for evidence to reinforce a bunch of negative thoughts, let's use that same tendency of looking for evidence to look for evidence to reinforce positive thoughts.
Yeah, because the process is going to run no matter what. Your mind is going to look for evidence to whatever you have activated no matter what. So we kind of gotta use it to our advantage.
So even like in this day and age, right, with this whole coronavirus experience that a bunch of us are having, there is positive news out there about the impact of this on people, not just negative. And when we focus on searching out what those positive impacts are, and we take that upon ourselves as a practice, we're going to see more of those.
Yeah, and this is true both for my outlook on life. For example, it's easy to get all my mental bandwidth occupied, like Sonica was saying, with just all the news that is coming across my screen, and a lot of it isn't very great. But it's also true for you and me, for our relationship here at home. Like what do I actually want to look for with you and me? I mentioned yesterday that a lot of our friends who have smaller, younger kids at home, they said, for example, that the first weekend of the whole quarantine period was the best weekend they had maybe forever.
So a really great practice that we would invite you to take on, and just notice what gets produced as you do that, is to, especially around something you have a tendency to always think that creates disconnection in your relationship, is to focus on looking for evidence for the opposite. So let's just say you have an idea about your partner as being somebody who's emotionally unavailable. Is you take on a little project. I kind of think of it sometimes as I'm going to be going on a little treasure hunt.
Yeah, right.
And I'm going to search out evidence for where my partner is emotionally available, or where my partner does share something about himself with me, or is present for me when I'm having deep feelings. And just start looking for any place where my partner demonstrates that. And there's many things that happen in that process as I'm looking for evidence to reinforce what I want to see instead of just by default what I happen to see. I begin to disrupt that well-grooved thought. You know what? It's a great way to change any negative belief. Is the more you look for evidence for the opposite, you start to poke holes in that belief. So when I start looking for where you're emotionally available, or where you emotionally connect, or where you share yourself, or you're present with me, I start to poke holes in that belief that you're not emotionally available, and I start to see, well, maybe you really are. And the truth is, there are often in relationship a whole slew of evidence that is the opposite of what we've been believing. We just have been filtering it out because we haven't been looking for it. So when we look for it, we actually get to start seeing it more and more.
Yeah, I like to take on when we share a simple process like this, which it sounds simple. Sometimes it's not quite so simple to apply because it requires you to really switch the direction of your train of thought. So I always like to take this on as an experiment. Like you could do that for just today. Let's see, just for today, whether it's about, the desperate corona situation out there, out here, or it's something that pertains to your personal relationship, just take it on as an experiment for today. Like today, I am going to deliberately look for uplifting news stories or uplifting shares or positive side effects of the current corona situation. You don't have to be worried about losing track of reality. You can always go back to the regular news tomorrow or whenever. But just for today, look for uplifting stories. And just for today, look for something you really like to see, that's something that pokes holes in a negative story you might have about your relationship. If mine might be she doesn't respect me, or she doesn't care what I think. So I'm going to today look deliberately for any place at all where she's given me any sort of signal that she's actually listening to what I'm saying.
And sometimes it's really simple. It's a lot simpler than we think, right? Or it can be, as we kind of get this new ball rolling. If I have an idea in my mind, for example, you don't listen to me, and I am screaming down from the bathroom, hey, I need a new roll of toilet paper, and you bring it to me, it's like, whoa, that's a little bit of evidence for that you're listening. You just start where you start, and it does begin to create like the next opening for the next thing that you can see, or the next, and it really does begin to bust down stories between, that you have between you and your partner, and begin to create new possibilities for connection.
Yeah, no, I've seen someone share in the comment section when we started talking here that the acronym of fear is false evidence appearing as reality. Well, that is also true the other direction. Productive or positive or wonderful evidence also begins to appear as reality. So why not do that? Like I said, it doesn't mean you turn into a daydreaming, Pollyannish person that only looks at rainbows and butterflies. Don't worry, reality will still be here for you. And you can begin to color and thereby co-create and influence your own reality. And definitely that is true for the reality inside of yourself, and definitely that is true for the reality you share with your partner or whoever you're with these days.
I also want to add in, as Christian was saying earlier too, we have the same tendency to do that with ourselves. So if I think I'm a loser, I'm going to see lots of evidence for where I'm a loser. You can do the same thing with yourself. Like, oh, you know what? I'm going to look for where I'm a winner today. I'm going to look for where I do make a contribution. I'm going to look for where I am successful today. And you just shift your focus off of where it tends to go. I had a little moment in this whole coronavirus thing where I was like, Oh, I'm not very connected. Kind of had this little thought about that. And then I really started looking, you know what? I'm going to start looking for where I am connected and where I do have community. And I've been seeing it all over the place.
As a matter of fact, I was saying to Sonica yesterday, because she had many during the day, like many really great conversations with friends, with family, with clients. And I was saying to her at the end of the day, I'm proud of you, honey. That was exactly what we're talking about, like gathering and creating evidence for the exact opposite.
So have fun with that. It really is a nice, busting up a bunch of negative thought that, frankly, a lot of us could really do with some help right now. So just play with that. Become like a little treasure hunter and look for what you want to see and notice how it's there. I think of it a little bit like a smorgasbord. If I hate something, I don't usually, when I'm at a smorgasbord, focus on the thing I hate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I focus on the things I like and the things I want to take. And life is a little bit like that. There's this smorgasbord always available to us, and we get to pick where we put our focus.
Yeah, it's like, so give your mind a new task. At least for today. You might like it so good, you're going to keep it up for the rest of your life. But at least for today, give your mind the task to look for evidence that opposes your negative beliefs or that supports what you would like to find, what you would like to see.
Yep, have fun with that.
And until we meet again tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time, take really good care of yourself and each other.